Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? A little run play, a little run play. Go. Dude, are you ready for the tango? Dude, are you ready for like a freestyle run?
Hello. Hello.
He said hard.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, look, go left. Go left real quick. Dude! Nah, bro, he has mags. Look, look, look. Look, look at his mags! What? He has
Hello.
mags. Look, look, look. Look at his mags.
Alright, you can come over here.
No, what?
Whoa, what happened to my webcam? Come on, man. There we go. All right. Let's get you over.
Pounds heavier than I was in high school.
So what we're doing here, recording my podcast. I'm trying out a multi-track default profile in Audition. I don't normally use this one. I normally do it on my own, but
School.
testing this.
That's horrible. Oh my goodness.
You know what's funny is that it comes with a volume. Let's see if I find it. Volume leveler, I think is what it was called. Noise reduction. Let's see. Can I find it? Can I find it? A speech volume leveler. When that was in there, I kept hearing myself breathe. I could hear taking the breath in, which is weird. I've never heard that before.
I feel so terrible with myself.
But now I can't.
I just want to be lazy and do nothing because I'm too busy self-loathing. Blah, 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 blah.
So one of the cool things with the default setup is that it's got your host, which would be like your main track, the interview. If I was doing an interview, like if I was routing someone through the roadcaster, like through the phone, which I've done before, I could put them in here. The sound effects are literally, if I have any sound effects. The music bed is what we're going to do next. Just kind of the background music, if we have that. But this front part, I also need to record an intro. I don't know where I would do that. Can't do it in here. Oh, well, there's no input. So I would need to probably bring it like all the way over here. Set the input, stereo. It should be able to roadcaster. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Oh no, I need to get a bar. Test, test, test. Okay. So basically what I just did, you can't see it, but I've got a roadcaster down here. I've got a mic right here. Let's see. How overexposed would we be if I had the light like that? Pretty overexposed. That's terrible. Okay. So, let's see. So first, I need to figure out what I even used to normally say on my podcast. You know it's been too long when you don't even remember what your intro
You're not off to
was.
a good start. I'd like to open this podcast with a funny story that only
Nope.
speaks to. There is no excitement. Counting on external motivations or external support in the sense that that drives you to create, it's just not going to happen. So that was another very interesting takeaway. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about
So what I was doing.
and what you just support in the sense that that drives you to create, it's just not going to happen. So that was another very interesting takeaway. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And what you just heard was a clip from an episode I just recorded about the creative process, and it just talks about the last month or so since I've started the podcast and kind of some of the hurdles that I've gone through, and it just some of the barriers that come up oftentimes when you're trying to start a new project or work as a creative or really just tackle any new initiative that requires a great deal of motivation, but also really vulnerability. So hopefully some of these insights help you and you can relate to them. And some of the things that I did to get through them, maybe they'll work for you. So hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll catch you guys on the other side. So it's been a while since I've made a podcast.
Okay, so what I was doing back then, and this is similar to what Rich Roll does, is he introduces the podcast with a snippet that like he likes, and then he fades out of that, and then he comes back into his introduction, and then actually goes into the podcast. So what we're gonna do, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do all that. Test. All right, we're rocking and rolling. So what I'm gonna do.
Test. Yeah, we're recording over here.
Okay, so that's the end. If we hit record, now we're recording. Okay. Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is something that I've recently ran head up against, and that was really the power of your story and getting into the difference between facts and stories, and what my takeaways are about basically the difference that those two things can play in your life. So obviously that take is not going to stay in there because that was a little bit mumbled and I don't really know what I'm saying. So we're going to do that one again because I didn't love it. What's funny too, this one's only playing on the right. That's weird. It's like a different waveform or a different level than the other one. I don't know. This would be interesting to see how all that fits together when I line them up. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And in today's episode, we will be talking about facts and stories, and how these two things, Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, we will be talking about the power of stories and how the lens in which you put on. Nope. Let's do the outro. All right, and that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review, comment, share it with a friend, or check out the website at www.theuntugledlife.com. And we'll catch you guys next time. See ya. All right, and that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you blah 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 blah. Hey guys, and no. All right, that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or an enemy, even. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And today we discussed the power of your story and how owning your story and really the lens in which you frame your current situation makes all the difference in, frankly, your quality of life. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider leaving us a review or rating us or leaving a comment, sharing this with a friend. It's the best way for us to get exposure to other people and to grow the audience. So hope to catch you back next time. If you want to, check us out at www.theuntugledlife.com, and we will see you guys next time. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And today's episode, we talked about the power of your story and how the lens in which you view your current situation really has everything to do with your quality of life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review, liking the podcast, sharing it with a friend. It's a great way to grow the audience and really just to spread the message. So, hope to catch you guys back next time. See ya. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And today, we're going to be talking about the power of facts versus stories, and how really the lens in which you frame your current situation has everything to do with your quality of life. This is something that I ran head up against with a recent accident of mine, and it's Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, we'll be focusing on the power of stories and how the lens in which you view your current situation has everything to do with your quality of life. So hopefully you enjoy, stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys on the other side. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review, rating us, sharing with a friend, or subscribing. It's the easiest way for us to grow our audience and really just spread the message. So we'll catch you guys next time. Alright, and that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review, rating us, leaving us a comment, sharing. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, leaving us a review, rating us, or maybe even sharing with a friend. It's the easiest way for us to grow our audience and really just spread the message. And I'd greatly appreciate it. So hopefully you guys found the message today insightful and helpful. Let me know what your thoughts were. And hopefully this helped. So until next time, see ya. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. And blah 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 blah. Man, we've been recording for a minute. I still haven't gotten this right. This is the reality of recording a podcast. It takes like 100 takes just to do an outro that's like 20 seconds long. Not even 20 seconds. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a review, rating us, subscribing, maybe even sharing with a friend. It's the easiest way for us to grow our audience and spread the word. So, until next time, and that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review, a rating, subscribing, or sharing with a friend. It's the easiest way for us to grow our audience and spread the word. Also, if you haven't yet, please check out our website at www.theuntugledlife.com for other articles and write ups and blog posts and all those things. Until next time, this is Nate. See ya. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review or rating or a comment. Following us on Instagram, you know, all the social responsibility things that you guys are supposed to do to show your appreciation and really help us grow our brand and channel. The descriptions are in the show notes below, and that'll point you to all the different socials and the website, etc., etc. So again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time. See you. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, leaving us a review. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing for more content like this and potentially liking the show or leaving a review. It's a great way to get your feedback and ideas and thoughts on the show, and maybe you have an idea that we can do. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, liking the podcast, leaving a review or a rating. It's a great way for us to get discovered by other people and really just grow our audience. If you haven't already, check out the website at www.theuntugledlife.com for more content and write-ups and blog posts and all that jazz. Um, and that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing for more content similar to this, and leave a comment or a review, and maybe share this with a friend. It's the easiest way for us to grow our audience and spread the word. If you haven't already, check out the website, www.theuntugledlife.com, or find us on Instagram, The Untucked Life, and we'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one. See ya. And that wraps up another episode of The Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. If you enjoy life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, I'll be talking about facts versus stories and how those two things play a critical role in, frankly, your quality of life. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Hit record. Now we're recording. So,
a critical role in, frankly, your quality of life. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy.
hit record.
Now we're recording. Okay. Then the other one. I don't know. This will be interesting to see how all that fits together when I line them up.
Okay, so now we've got an intro and outro stuck in some of this. This is crazy though. Here we have a stereo in, it looks like, with a left and a right is my guess. And then here we just have a single. So I don't know why that is. What did I do? Stereo. I have no idea. Let's find our music. I do like the music that I used to use, so I'm going to bring that back in. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. I'm pretty sure it's this one. So we'll bring them in. We'll bring this into our music bed. I wonder if it's already decreased.
Until next time, you guys keep on keeping on, and we'll catch you later. See ya.
Oh, did I already do an outro? Let's see what I have here.
What? You just blow it? Did you just brush your teeth? You just did what? Wow, man, it smells so clean in there. No cavities, baby.
Yay!
Okay.
Love you super much and have a great night.
Love you super much and have a great night. You gonna go watch your show? Gonna steal my headband? Okay, go ahead. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, I'll be talking about facts versus stories and how those two things play a critical role in, frankly, your quality of life. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy.
That's a pretty good intro right there. I'm pretty pumped with that. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut that. See, I thought there was a shortcut.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, I'll be talking about facts versus stories and how those two things play a critical role in, frankly, your quality of life. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Test, test, test. Yeah, we're recording over here. Audio is much better with this mic. Well, it was a little bit better. I think we need to come up. What?
There's these interruptions with Beckett where he comes in, he's talking to me.
I don't think this is straight.
Hi.
What are you doing? Your what? Your hair? What are you doing? You take a shower. Hey, look, guess what? You're on camera again. Who knew? You have anything to say?
I love you.
Oh, that was nice. Thank you. What are you gonna go do? Your hair smells good. What are you gonna go do? Watch videos tomorrow. Okay. Love you. Thank you.
Hope you have a good night.
Okay, I'll see you in a little bit.
Love you super much.
Okay, love you super much. Remember, the camera's right there. Good job. Yeah, boy. What? Guess what? What? Secret handshake? What is it?
This, and then we do this, and then we do that, and then we do this.
Oh, okay, so we're doing it. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about something near and dear to my... What are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about... Test, test, test. So what I want to know how to do is how I can pull out this, just this. How do you just save? Split all clips under playhead. Convert to unique copy. Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, I'll be talking about facts versus stories and how those two things play a critical role in Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. In today's episode, I'll be talking about facts versus stories and how those two things play a critical role in, frankly, your quality of life.
So stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Today, we're going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, mostly because I struggle with it all the time. And I think that it's only fair that I share that struggle with you in hopes that maybe you can struggle less at it, because it kind of sucks. So what I'm talking about, is the difference between two very important items. And it might not be what you think, but today's episode, yes, sir.
How?
What? You just blow? Did you just brush your teeth?
No, just wash.
You just did what? Let me put it on my wrist. Put it on. Don't shoot me with it. Okay, leave it. Thank you. And welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life. On today's episode, it's so funny to try to wrap these things up. It's just so not natural. All right, that wraps up another. Why do I even say it? All right. And that wraps up another episode. It's all right, so that wraps up another episode of the Untucked. It's so funny to try to wrap these things up. It's just so not natural. All right, that wraps up another. Why do I even say it? All right. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. Hopefully, that episode on facts and stories was helpful. It's definitely something that has helped me get through a rather difficult time, and it's something that I think might help you. So if you like this episode, consider leaving a review or maybe sharing it with a friend. That would help us out greatly. And check us out online at theuntouchedlife.com. Until next time, you guys keep on keeping on, and we'll catch you later. See ya. Welcome back to another episode of the Untucked Life. On today's episode, theuntouchedlife.com. Until next. It's so funny to try to wrap a like or a thumbs up or 5 stars or 4 stars or however many stars indicate your level of satisfaction with. All right, that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life. If you like this, we're also on Instagram at theuntouchedlife.com.
This is hilarious.
All right, so that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life. Thanks for tuning in.
Takes it takes.
If you're new around here, consider subscribing. Leave a review.
If you're new around here.
Help me. Maybe it'll help you too.
I think that's the substantive end.
All right, that wraps up another. Why do I even say it? All right. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked. It's so funny to try to wrap these things up. It's just so not natural. All right, that wraps up another. Why do I even say it? All right, and that wraps. It's so.
So right now, basically, when I cut two clips together, I select both of them and hit merge. I'm sure that there's a shortcut somewhere that tells you how to do that, but I have no idea how to do that. I keep looking up keyboard shortcuts, and bro, nothing good. Nothing good.
So, what facts in your life might you need to reevaluate the story around them? Maybe that story needs to be rewritten. Maybe that would help. Help me. Maybe it'll help you too. It's so funny to try to wrap these things up. It's just so not natural. All right, that wraps up another. Maybe that would help. Help me. Maybe it'll help you too.
So here, what I'm actually doing is adding a pause, because that was a little bit too quick of a segue from what should be like kind of like a dramatic ending, like maybe to help you too, to all right, so awkward trying to wrap these things up, to like something that's comedic, which I think is, I mean, it's so now let's listen back to it.
Maybe that would help.
Maybe to
Help
you
me.
too.
Maybe that story needs to be rewritten. So, what facts in your life might you need to reevaluate the story around them? Maybe that story needs to be rewritten. Maybe that would help. Help me. Maybe it'll help you too.
Well, I literally just figured out how to loop.
I'm still going through it, and I can honestly attest to choosing very intentionally. It's so funny to try to wrap these.
Okay, so now I have a music bed. Typically, I don't think I have a music bed throughout the whole podcast. So if I have one throughout the whole podcast, how does someone know? What is this middle part?
As much as the story that I construct about the facts of that accident. Hello, 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 hello.
Okay.
Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. So, have an accident. First, test, 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 test. So, the facts of that accident. Facts of that accident. So, have an accident. First time I had broken any bones. Of that accident. Have an accident. First time I had broken any bones.
Cool thing about audio is you can just recreate whatever you said, just like cutting certain things out. So I like that part. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut.
Have an accident.
I'm gonna cut this and that out so it sounds like I say so. First time I broke any bones.
So, first time I had broken any bones. I remember when I left the emergency room, they put my arm in a sling, and it was a cast, like a soft cast. And I made an appointment. This was Saturday, so I made an appointment on Monday to see the orthopedist. And I get there, the guy's like, "You got to take your arm out of that cast because with elbow injuries, with adults."
It's a lot of clipping and merging. There's got to be a shortcut for this. I just don't know what it is. So it wouldn't let me merge that other one because I had two audio tracks at the beginning that had been cut and I had not stitched them back together before trying to make a merge. Wah, wah.
which was probably one of the most painful things I've done in a long time, if not ever. And over the course of the next couple days, I just slowly stretched my arm out, and finally got my arm to get closer to full extension. Not all the way there, but closer. So, fast forward a couple weeks, and I can't really use my right arm at all. My wife has to help me take a shower. I've got stitches in my face. My face, like where my cheek is all road rashed. So I constantly have to put medicine on it. But it heals relatively quickly. I mean, all things considered, I'm very lucky. To this day, I remember searching the best helmets, and I don't even know what else I typed in. Basically, the best helmets. And I swear, if I was not wearing a helmet, I would have cracked my head open. I was going like 18 miles an hour. And if you imagine driving your car 18 miles an hour, then jumping out of it and sliding face first on the ground, it's basically what I did. So, definitely very lucky. But I tell you what, initially, that wasn't the story I was telling myself. The story I was telling myself is a story of self-pity and self-loathing and a little mini identity crisis. I had no idea what I was supposed to do because I'm typically always doing something with my hands. So to the point in the story where I was saying earlier that day, I was literally building a coffee table, right? These videos and the podcast, all these things require my hands. So, I couldn't hold anything. I used to go to the gym every single morning and lift weights. And the idea of putting a weight in my hand while I was hurt, even still, it just wasn't going to happen. So I would say probably about a month in, I was a mess. I'm used to doing all these home projects. I'm used to working on my Jeep or my truck or fixing this or that, or just picking stuff up, just picking up my book bag that has my laptop in it, using my mouse. All these things were just so much harder, right? And there's also a tremendous amount of shame that comes with that, because literally, and I'm a grown man, there were other people, specifically at my work, that literally would just crack jokes about the fact that, what do I think, I'm young and I shouldn't be doing this, and I'm a dumbass and this and that for getting in the accident. And there's a part of me that was a little bit ashamed. I didn't even tell my best friends. They still don't know. This would be the first time that they're learning that I even had an accident, because I haven't seen them because of the whole COVID deal. I'll probably text them before this podcast comes out, but still, there's a part of me that doesn't want to tell them. There's a part of me that didn't want to tell anybody, because every doctor I would visit, they just roll their eyes at me like, what the hell are you doing that for? And right or wrong, it was something that I enjoyed. I'd never had a problem with it before. I feel like it's kind of like getting in an accident on a dirt bike. Like, it's fun, but it's also could be dangerous. But back to the story. The story that I was telling myself is that you should be ashamed of what you did. You shouldn't do that, right? What were you thinking? Now you'll never be the same. You'll never be able to do your home improvement projects again. You won't be making any more tables. You can't even pick up a camera with your right hand, much less record videos or photos, right? So I was just stuck in this horrible spot of I'm normally the person that does a lot of things for other people, and now I need other people to help me, and I can't do the things that I normally do. And if you put those two things together, it's a recipe for disaster. It's definitely a downward spiral. And I'm not sure what it was. I don't know. I can't specifically pinpoint when it was, but I remember thinking about, maybe it was one of those like gratitude memes, or maybe something from Ryan Holiday or the Daily Stoic or Marcus Aurelius. I don't know what it was, but it doesn't matter. But basically a light bulb went off and said, you had an accident, you got hurt, you're lucky you didn't die. So what are you gonna do about it? Right? You've got to go to physical therapy. I went twice a week for like 7 weeks. And I probably still need to go. I probably need to go back. I haven't been in a couple of weeks, but I need to go back. But I had to be very intentional about how I was going to interpret the facts of my accident, because left to my default setting, I would not be making this podcast. I probably would not have been so diligent about physical therapy. I probably would not have kept working out, even though my workouts were different. I probably would be miserable. I'd probably be upset with my kids. I'd probably be upset with my work. Maybe I even would have been fired just from having a bad attitude. I don't know. But I think I would have gone into some deep, dark depression and just felt sorry for myself that it is unfair. The whole thing is unfair, and I shouldn't have gotten hurt, and I shouldn't have broke my arm, and my wrist should not be messed up. And if I wasn't right-handed and I was left-handed, then it wouldn't be a big deal. And if I didn't ride my board goofy, then I wouldn't have hurt my right arm. None of that shit matters, right? I can't control any of it. It happened, and now I'm here. And what I absolutely can control is how I interpret it. I had a friend just yesterday, maybe it was yesterday, we were talking about it, and they said, so what's the prognosis? What's it gonna take to get you back? I don't even know I don't know if it said back to how you were or whatever. But my answer, and this is my answer.
Myself. This is crazy.
It's July. This happened in March, so several months later. My answer yesterday was it will take time and gratitude. Now, you might be thinking, what's there to be grateful for? You are in a worse spot now than you were before. And sure, that's true. But I also could be in a far worse spot. I could be in a hospital bed. I could have not been wearing a helmet and cracked my head open and died on the side of the road by myself. And that is maybe a little bit extreme, but I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, if you look at my helmet, I don't have it with me right now, but the gouges in my helmet from the asphalt are pretty deep. And the scars, I don't know if you can see them on the camera right now, but the scars under my eye and on my eyebrow are pretty serious. So there's definitely a chance that had I not made some of the decisions leading up to that, maybe I would be in a far worse situation. So what I'm trying to do, what I actively try to do, what I have to be very intentional about doing, is making sure that the story that I choose to tell myself, the story that I choose to believe, the thing that helps me interpret my accident, and the thing that helps me not get discouraged when things are hard, or when my wrist hurts, or when I can't turn a wrench the same way as I could, or I have to use both hands for something, or I have to get my son to help me pick something up, or whatever it might be, is that this accident was put into my life to shake me up, right? To make me realize, stop taking things for granted. Stop squandering your gifts or your dreams or any of that stuff that people talk about, right? Is that this life is transient. And you need to be reminded of its frailty and not just be along for the ride. So that is how I choose to interpret the facts of my accident. And that has made a profound difference in my overall demeanor, my motivation, my inspiration, just my overall approach to life, and my injuries and talking about it, is that I made a choice. And tomorrow when I wake up, my arm is going to be sore. And when I go to turn it over, it's going to hurt. And I'm going to have to use my little grip strengthener and my other little weighted balls and all these things to do the exercise that I need to help build back the muscle and put my brace on. I have to wear a brace every single day, just about all day. And if I'm not careful, if maybe there's just the right mix of I hit my arm on something and it hurt, or somebody said something to me at work, or maybe another person makes some joke, and it's just the right recipe of things potentially going against me, I can very easily slip back into that self-pity, self-loathing mindset. And my story could shift to I'm a victim and it's not fair and this life is unjust. But that's not the story that I want to choose. That's not the story that I'm going to try to choose. That's not how I want to proceed, right? That's not how I want to live the rest of my life, is feeling sorry for myself because my wrist is hurt. So I can't think of a better example or a more applicable example of how there are things that you can control and there are things that you cannot control. And to focus on the things that you can't control is just a recipe for misery. But if you focus on the things that you can control, like your story, like how you interpret the things that happen to you, that could change everything. And there's power in that. And that is something that I had to learn firsthand. So I'm not a seasoned professional at this, but I have been through it, and I'm still going through it. And I can honestly attest to choosing very intentionally the story in which you tell yourself about your circumstances, about the facts of your life, could make all the difference. And there's tremendous power in that. So, what facts in your life might you need to reevaluate the story around them? Maybe that story needs to be rewritten. Maybe that would help. Help me. Maybe it'll help you too. It's so funny to try to wrap these things up. It's just so not natural. All right, that wraps up another. Why do I even say it? All right. And that wraps up another episode of the Untucked Life, where we care a lot more about a lot less. Hopefully, that episode on facts and stories was helpful. It's definitely something that has helped me get through a rather difficult time, and it's something that I think might help you. So if you like this episode, consider leaving a review or maybe sharing it with a friend. That would help us out greatly. And check us out online at theuntockedlife.com. Until next time, you guys keep on keeping on, and we'll catch you later. See ya. Stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Today, we're going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, mostly because I struggle with it all the time. And I think that it's only fair that I share that struggle with you in hopes that maybe you can struggle less at it, because it kind of sucks. So what I'm talking about is the difference between two very important items. And it might not be what you think, but that is facts and stories, and how those two things play probably the most significant role in your life of just about anything I can think of from a mental standpoint. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but the way that I think about it, the way that I define it, granted I'm no mental expert, mental health expert, or neurologist, or scientist, or anything that would suggest that I'm some authority on the topic. It's more a collection of thoughts or learnings across many different arenas and books and teachings and different philosophies, kind of putting it all together to come up with a construct, I think, that's helpful. And what that really is comes down to this. There are facts in your life about you, about your situation, your age, your weight, right? Things that are things that you can prove, right? Things that can be measured, evidence almost, if you want to think about it like that. Then there are stories. And to me, the story is how we reconcile the meaning of the facts, right? So let's take an example. The fact might be I weigh 250 pounds, right? Now, there are two ways this story could go. Well, there's a whole bunch of ways this story could go, but we'll just stick to two. One is, oh my goodness, I weigh 250 pounds. That's 80 pounds heavier than I was in high school. That's horrible. Oh my goodness. I feel so terrible with myself. I just want to be lazy and do nothing because I'm too busy self-loathing. Blah, 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 blah. That's my story. That's how I interpret and make sense of the fact that I weigh 250 pounds. Now, another story could be, man, I'm 250, and I used to be 320. That's fantastic. I mean, sure, I still got a long way to go, but I've lost 10, 15, 20, 70, whatever it is, pounds, and I'm heading in the right direction, right? But man, I'm 250, but at least I'm not 260, or at least I'm not 255, or at least I figured that out now, and now I can do something about it. That is the same fact, interpreted differently, and one would lead to a significantly different outcome than the other. And why that is important is because I think that might be the most pivotal portion of possibly your whole life, is how do you interpret, right? How do you make sense of facts that you're confronted with? You have 3 kids. Okay. Does that mean, man, I have 3 kids, I can't pursue my dreams, blah, blah, blah. I'm just chained to this job and this and that, and it's because I got to support my kids, and it's so expensive, and it's so hard, and social media. Or, man, I'm so lucky to have these 3 kids. They motivate me, they inspire me, make me want to do better. Same fact, 2 different stories about it, right? And I know in reading some of the works of the Stoics, they were big on basically delineating between things you can control, things you can't control. And I think that that applies to facts and stories, because oftentimes you can't control the facts, or at least not at this point, right? But you can control the stories. So I think a lot of times we get caught up in obsessing about the facts and we neglect the story, where in reality, if we were to focus on the story, I think it would help us manage, right, or deal with the facts in a significantly healthier way. Let me tell you a story. So not a middle-aged guy, a young guy, goes out for a ride on a Saturday night, right? It's roughly 8 o'clock. Pretty typical Saturday. Actually spent some time in the garage, built something pretty cool, built a little table, a little coffee table for outside, a little outside patio area. So that was pretty neat, you know, kind of work with your hands, make something, that something gets put into use in your house. Pretty cool, right? So after that, and after he eats dinner, 8:30 comes around, he wants to go for a ride. So this individual rides a motorized device that has a single wheel, not to call out any brands specifically, but he'd been riding it for months. He's had it for almost 100 miles, never had any issues, and just goes out on a leisurely ride. It's getting dark, but the thing has lights, so that's not a big deal. Plenty of night rides before. Rides around for probably 10 or 15 minutes. Heading home. Comes off of a pretty main street, turns right. He's heading up his road, and he goes to make the turn towards his house. There for a couple hours, goes home with some stitches in his face. Around for probably 10 or 15 minutes. Heading home. Comes off of a pretty main street, turns right. He's heading up his road, and he goes to make the turn towards his house. Next thing you know, feel the board drop out from under his feet. And then the next thing is he's picking himself up off the ground, a little bit disoriented, and finds his board, walks himself, picks up his board, first of all, which is not light, walks himself back to his house, proceeds to go to the emergency room. Granted, this is right during the beginning of the COVID drama pandemic. So that was an event in and of itself. Gets to the emergency room, CAT scan, x-rays, has a concussion, broken arm. There for a couple hours, goes home with some stitches in his face, a headache, and his arm in a cast at 90 degrees. This is March 28th. And if you haven't figured it out by now, the rider was me. So what ended up happening, and now it's been a couple months, I was riding home. The board took a nosedive, which I had read about before, but never had any issues with. Literally hit it, stopped. Nose hit the ground, it stopped, threw me off, landed on my right arm, broke the radial neck and head, which is right up towards the elbow. I also tore some tendons in my wrist. I displaced my ulnar bone. Pretty sure it's still displaced. Had a concussion. Busted my eyebrow. Had to get 5 or 6 stitches. Literally tore all the skin from under my cheek down to my beard. And was pretty beat up. So that instance or accident and the injuries sustained and the cause of the injuries, those are all facts, right? And they can't be changed. But what's interesting is how over the next couple weeks and even now, several months later, the facts of the story or of the accident don't matter nearly as much as the story that I construct about the facts of that accident. So, first time I had broken any bones, I remember when I left the emergency room, they put my arm in a sling, and it was a cast, like a soft cast, and I made an appointment. This was Saturday, so I made an appointment on Monday, and
Alright, man, let's go to school. We are. Me. He got it.
All right, we're gonna shut this down. I'm gonna finish this up, post it to Anchor. Maybe even set it to launch tomorrow. And see how that goes.